Hi, how are you? Welcome back to another segment of Coffee and Connections with the Chief. I'm Chief of Police Dean Rondeau. To my left is my able-bodied executive officer, Captain Mark Livy, and to my right is one of our police officers, senior patrolman, Pat Sparrow, and you'll be hearing from him in a little bit. So, welcome to November. It just seems like yesterday, Captain, that we were in the middle of August. Where has the summer gone? And I know, and the fall, no pun intended, blew right through. Right, we just went right through the fall. It was amazing. So now we're into November, and so we've got the holidays coming up. The holidays are going to be upon us here faster than we know. So, gentlemen, get out there and start doing some Christmas shopping for your significant others and your loved ones. That being said, I always wait until the last minute myself. That being said, kids are going to be out of school on some breaks. You got the Thanksgiving break coming up, so be mindful of that. And of course, the college kids will be home here shortly from college, so be mindful of that. You've got some events coming up here in town. You're going to have the Turkey Trot coming up, so there'll be runners on the road. Watch for those signs and watch for that activity. The fall is a beautiful time. Late fall is a beautiful time. Thanksgiving is a beautiful time in Wolfeboro, so enjoy it and be safe. That being said, police department is busy with budgets and budget presentations. Still a little too early to tell right now what our final budget is going to be. It's still moving through the various committees and organizations that take a look and have a say in our budget. But so far it looks like we're up just a little, very, very, very small increase, just only several $1,000s. So fairly small increase at this time. So that's good. Of course, there was a lot of cost-cutting measures and cost savings measures that the captain and I instituted before we got to this point. So stay tuned on that. I don't have any firm dates yet for town vote or for the town meeting. So once we know what that is, we'll get that information out on one of our upcoming shows. That's really all I wanted to say, Captain. I'm going to turn the mic over to you for your operational update.
Thanks, Chief. So what's going on with the PD and dispatch is we have the Safe Commute that was just approved in October 1st. So that's the highway safety grants. So you'll be seeing some officers out there conducting their patrols. So watch your speeds, watch your cell phone use, as I mentioned every month. So with dispatch, nothing new there. Everything's going smoothly. No new hires, no new going on there. I mean, all the part-timers are working. Everyone's working good. Everything's going smooth. So everything's going well in that department. The police department, so we have Benjamin Church. Now he's halfway through his
16 weeks.
Yeah, so he'll be 8 weeks done. So he's got 8 weeks left. So it's moving on. So I bet he's happy to see that. 8 weeks only left. So it is pretty quick once you finish. When you're in there, it's long. But he's doing well. He'll be out December 20th. That's the graduation date for that. We did have the new hiring process for the 14th officer. We had a PT test October 5th. And then the oral boards were on the 10th, a Thursday. So the commissioners did select a young individual from there who's got a bachelor in criminal justice. So he accepted the offer, and the background will start from there. So we'll have Staff Sergeant Maloney and Detective Emerson conducting that backgrounds on him. So that takes quite a while. As I mentioned before in previous hirings, the background process can take a month or so. Could take longer, depending how far it goes back and what we find and everything. And then from there, as I mentioned before, you have your academy. You may start a little beforehand, get out there, get through the public, drive around with the officers, just see everything. I mean, we're talking somebody that's fresh, never been on the job. We like them to see a little bit before he actually gets in the academy, so we can relate some of these RSAs when you're going in there, like your theft, your criminal mischiefs and stuff like that. So he has some knowledge of it. Makes it a little easier when you're in the academy. Then you have your 16 weeks academy, 8 to 12 weeks FTO, and then somewhat he's on there by himself, but with the other officers. You usually don't want to put him, that new officer, by themselves on a midnight shift. You like to have them a couple weeks or a couple months as our shifts go with somebody else. So he has somebody to look on to ask questions. Instead of 3 a.m., a sergeant getting called and you got a question there instead of waking somebody up. It's easier to do it for a little while. So like I mentioned before, it's about a year before that individual is out by himself and ready to go. So it's a process. With that said, nothing new other than that. You'll see the patrols going on. Like he said, Thanksgiving's out there. So you'll see a lot of people back. The college is back. You'll see the downtown here, everyone going out. If you're going to, honestly, you got to say, if you're going to consume any alcoholic beverage, make sure you have a driver. Get somebody out there, get somebody that's sober. We will be out on that week, so it should be a day to celebrate with your family and everything, so enjoy it. But with that said, I'll pass this along to our officer that's sitting over here to the right, Patrick Sparrow. And here you go.
Thank you, Captain. I'm Senior Patrolman Patrick Sparrow, and a little bit about myself. I graduated from Franklin High in Massachusetts in '99. From there, I went on to Curry College, graduated in '03 with a criminal justice degree. Pretty much right after that, got on board with Nantucket Police, where I accumulated some training, such as a motor officer, SWAT operator, field training officer, a couple others that I can't even remember to be on top of my head. After that, I moved up here in 2011, started with this great department. What brought me up here was my wife and her whole family is from here, and actually my brother-in-law is on the police department. I'm sure a lot of you know Sergeant Strauch, the K-9 officer. Well, with my time here, some of the stuff that I gained in training include firearms instructor, PBT instructor. Just recently took over the maintenance of the cruisers, and along with all the radar signs and radar trailers that you see out there, I maintain and placement in that. With that being said, if you have any trouble areas as far as speeders go and anything like that, don't hesitate to either let myself know or the department know, and we can get that trailer and hopefully those signs. And we just actually accrued one extra sign, so come next year, you're going to see 3 of them out there. And just future reference, I mean, they do keep track of speeds. They do take pictures as well. Not the greatest, but we do see these. So that's a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm right now currently on a mixed scheduled shift, be going back to midnights here for a little while to help out with the family and 3 boys and a newborn we just had 2 months ago. So if you have any questions, concerns, or anything as far as speeders go, questions, firearms related, anything like that, don't hesitate to give myself a call. All right? And I'll turn you back over to the chief.
Yeah, so Senior Patrolman Sparrow is actually one of our shooting stars. He's doing a phenomenal job with, you're welcome, sir, doing a phenomenal job with the managing all of our radar warning signs and a radar warning trailer, trying to keep a track of the speeding issues. I will say, and it's something if you watch the commission meetings regularly, you'll hear me say that the speeding issues represent one of the most common quality of life complaints that we get here in town, and I suspect no matter where you are, whether it's Chicago or Boston or LA or New York City, speeding in a neighborhood, your neighborhood, is a serious concern. And the reason why that is children out there playing, kids are riding their bicycles, people are walking their dogs, and remember, we live in the Northeast, right? So it gets dark early in the fall, and it's difficult to see, especially at sunset. That's one of the most dangerous times when you have that change of light conditions. So people are rightfully concerned about speeders, even though it's something seemingly innocuous, and some may even say insignificant compared to, say, New York City or Boston with the high crime rates in those locations. Speeding represents one of the more significant and common quality of life complaints that we get. That being said, The patrols are out in the neighborhoods. We know where we're getting the complaints. And listen, folks, we're getting into the winter, right? So if you have a habit of driving fast, all right, you got to slow down. One, because there are hazards there that you just can't see, and it takes quite a while for you to react to a child or a dog or a pedestrian in the roadway. If you're speeding, if you're going the speed limit, you'll be safer. That's number one. Number two is that we're going to be getting some bad weather here. You know, pretty soon the snow's going to be flying. There'll be ice and slush on the roadway, and if you're driving fast, you're not going to be able to stop. You're gonna slide and you're going to crash into something. So you slow down, okay? The life you save may be your own, all right? So please, slow down. We're out there, and as Senior Patrolman said, you know, we see more than you realize. So please, just slow down just a little. You'll still get there in plenty of time. I could do the math for you and show you. If you have any questions, give us a call at the Wolfeboro PD, and we'll be happy to explain it. That being said, I think that's going to conclude another segment of Coffee and Connections with the Chief. So please come on the show anytime. Just let Tim or Peter know down at Community TV, or give us a call at the Wolfeboro PD. Speak to the captain or myself if you want to be on the show. We can talk about anything you want. Talk about the Patriots. We can talk about the Red Sox. We can talk Fourth Amendment issues. Whatever you want to talk about. Come on the show. Be my guest, and as always, coffee is free. Thank you very much for tuning in, and please stay tuned for your safety tip of the week. Thank you very much. Hi, how are you? I'm Chief Dean Rondeau. Welcome back to Coffee and Connections with the Chief, and I'm here with a guest from Durham, Diane. Diane and I were just chit-chatting about a couple of things. One was the Durham Police Department, and the other was the new public safety building they have down there, new police department they have down there. So I'm going to turn it over to Diane. Diane?
Oh my goodness, I didn't know I get to hold the mic.
Oh, you get to hold the mic, you get to talk. We can talk about whatever you want.
Well, I was interested in your uniform
Yes, ma'am.
because it probably tells your history.
It does indeed.
So let's learn about that.
So, so here, let me have the mic. So you gotta hand it back to me because the folks at home won't be able to hear. So I'm an FBI Academy graduate. So that's one of the ribbons for, and then the other, my Academy pin. That's the 110th Police Academy. I went to the state's 110th Police Academy way back in August of 1996. I can tell you it was hot. It was hot, and I graduated in November 1996, and then I hit the road running as a patrolman. I came up through the ranks here at the Wolfeboro PD, so I'm a diver. I'm a police diver. So that's what this badge is up here. I went through right after I got out of the police academy that summer. Actually, it was that spring. They sent me back to the fire academy for the public safety search and rescue dive course. It was a two-month program down at the fire academy. They had proponency for it, and the water was cold. We dove. We did all our searches in the Merrimack River. So funny story. When I was doing that, all the firefighters, they had these mannequins that they had to find. I'm thinking to myself, of course, you're diving in a blackout mask, very cold water's moving. Of course, you're in a harness and you're about 60 feet of water. So they said, well, because you're a cop, we're not going to give you a mannequin to find. I'm thinking because finding a mannequin is pretty easy, right? They threw a weapon in. They said you got to find the weapon. I'm like, oh great. So of course I go in the water. As soon as I go in the water, I find the shotgun and I bring it up. And everybody, I don't think I was in the water more than 2 minutes, and everybody's like in amazement. And they go, yeah, that's nice. That's not the shotgun. So you found a shotgun used in a crime about a year ago. So we had to call the police. The Concord police came down and took possession of it. And then I had to go back in the water and find the real plant that they throw in. So that was kind of funny. So I've been diving for years and years. And then a lot of the other ribbons are for meritorious service, and there's a couple of accommodations for exceptional service, serving on the Carroll County Drug Task Force and that kind of stuff. So way back in the day, a long time ago. So yeah, but it does. You're right. It does tell a history, and so the captain has a number of awards too. He's not wearing his. You don't have to wear them. It's not a requirement, but we do have them, and we do issue citations when our men and women do excellent work. Oh yes, ma'am.
So, did you come here with a lot of experience, or were you just interested in police work here, or did you?
That's a great question. No, so I came here. That's a fantastic question. A lot of people would know that, right? So no, I am this is my second career. I am actually a retired Army colonel. I did 34 years in the U.S. Army, right? And the next question you're probably going to say is, well, how long have you been a police officer? I've been a police officer 23 years, and you're going to say that's impossible. You look too young. Let me explain. So I have a few college degrees. I went to Norwich University, which is a military academy, and that's I actually enlisted in the Army first in 1981, and then I did my time, and then I went to Norwich and came back in as a lieutenant. I was an infantry officer and went to airborne school, so I was a paratrooper and did all that. And then I went over to military intelligence, and I was a counterintelligence officer. So the first time I was on active duty was just probably a little bit over 11 or so years, not including my enlisted time. If you include my enlisted time, it's about 14 and a half years or so. And then I went into the reserve program, and my wife is a nurse, and we came here, and though I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts, she had family in Rochester, so we kind of figured we wanted to raise our family. At the time I had two young boys. We wanted to raise our family here in this area, in the Lakes region, kind of work where you're going to vacation. That was the concept, and people kept asking me when I was getting out of the service, they go, wow, what are you going to do? I said, I'll be a cop. How hard can that be, right? No heavy lifting, right? So I stayed in the Army Reserve because I was doing a change of career, and I needed to be quite honest with you, I needed the extra money. And one thing led to another, and despite my best efforts, the Army continued to promote me. And they promoted me to a major, and then they sent me to school to learn how to speak Albanian. I already spoke French and Spanish, and then they sent me to school to learn how to speak Albanian, and I ended up getting called back on active duty to go to Kosovo. So I was in that war in Kosovo, and then I came back, and then I got reassigned, got called back to active duty and reassigned to the 82nd Airborne. I was assigned to a rifle battalion, airborne infantry battalion, and we did the original invasion. We actually, I was part of that initial entry into Iraq in 2003, and I was there for about 16 or so months, and then came back, and then there was a few other smaller deployments in the middle there, and then got called back again toward the end of the surge, and that was another 16 months. This time as a lieutenant colonel, I had been promoted yet once again. I told the Army, yeah, you don't need to promote me, but they did it anyway. So they promoted me to lieutenant colonel, made me chief of operations and intelligence of a brigade, and this time we were supporting 18th Airborne Corps in Iraq. And so I came home in 2009 and was sent to the FBI Academy at that point, or I should say I had been selected for the FBI Academy, so I did that, and then the Army promoted me yet again to, despite my best efforts, they promoted me again to colonel, full colonel, and then so I ended up retiring out of the Army at the age of 51 with 34 years, just over 34 years of service. And my last duty assignment was Fort Wadsworth in Staten Island, New York. And I was there, I was what is called in the Army, what we call it CHOPS, Chief of Operations. So I was the, myself and the one-star general were the guys really moving the troops around the battlefield, so to speak. That's what I did. I was the lead operations officer. And then in 2017, January 2017, I was promoted from captain to chief here at the Wolfeboro Police Department. So that was kind of, I've been doing two careers at the same time. It was, and there was a lot of schooling on both sides. The police department side, as well as the the military side, because the military has their own military education requirements. You have Command and General Staff College and so forth and so on. I did all of that. In the police department, it has the same thing in the FBI Academy. It's like the War College. What the War College would be for a senior officer in the Army, the FBI Academy would be for a senior law enforcement officer, such as myself. And I'm also a technical crash reconstructionist, so I went through all that training and schooling and so forth, using applied math and physics to put motor vehicle crashes back together again. So I really enjoy Wolfeboro. I enjoy my time here. I live here in Wolfeboro, so I don't get down to Durham very often. If I do, it's just to go through the tolls. It is. Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to comment that we actually have something in common. I'm a nurse, and my husband was in the military. He was a second lieutenant, and then I think captain. Yeah, but he served his time at West Point teaching the cadets. So we've had to sort of understand your lingo now. So, goodness, you've been involved in this dual career for such a long time. I wondered what effect the military background has on your work here. I mean, obviously your command of troops, etc., makes a difference, but what other things did you bring because of your military background?
So that's another great question. So in terms of we'll call it the positive effect, if you will. You have the Army. The Army has a lot. I'll tell you right now, the best training in the world is through the military, regardless of your branch of service, whether it's Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Merchant Marine Academy, or National Weather Service, or whatever branch, because that is actually a uniform service, by the way. Public health is too. And my wife is a nurse, and she was an Army nurse. But the best training you get is really through the federal government, and of course they have the ability to do that, right? They have just a vast amount of resources at their very fingertips. So in terms of management training and graduate level training in schools that you get to, you just can't beat. In fact, I'm not sure if your husband went through it. You said he was a captain. When you're a senior captain in the Army, they send you through a 9.5-week program called CAS-Q, right? It's Combined Arms Service Staff School. It really is 9.5 weeks of quantitative analysis, right? 9.5 weeks of calculus. 9.5 weeks of calculus. And it's designed to teach you how to solve problems, how to use mathematics and calculus to solve problems, logistics problems, and how to do course of action analysis, cost analysis, so forth and so on. That's the purpose of it, so you can make decisions. It's a decision-making school. So what other organization does that, right? 9.5, and they don't, it matters or not. You could be a dentist, you could be an infantry officer. You're going to this school, right? Everybody goes to this school. You have to, right? It's a requirement. So there is so much training and so much education you get from the military side. It's directly applicable not just to law enforcement, to public service, and to public management. They're all leadership schools and management schools and business-related schools, public administration type programs. That's what they're designed. Because when you're an officer, right? When you think about it, when you're an officer at anything above the captain level, you're managing large organizations, and some of these organizations you're managing are like, think of it like when I was in Iraq, right? You're on, most of us were either on a combat outpost, which would be like the equivalent of a small town, or a large outpost called a FOB, Forward Operating Base. Those are small cities, right? So you've got all of the issues that you have to deal with, aside from troop leading and all the tactics, right? You've got sewer and water issues that you got to worry about feeding the troops. You got to worry about sanitation, right? You got to worry about how do you get rid of your garbage. So you have all these same types of issues that we have to wrestle with as a community, whether you're the town manager or the city council in Dover or the board of selectmen here in Wolfeboro, right? We have these concerns. We have to know how to operate that stuff. So you get this training, right? Because you have to. Think of it, when you put a division of 25,000 soldiers in a location, there's a lot of logistics that goes in with that. All right, there's a lot of logistics that goes toward that. Napoleon once said, amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics, right? And that's really what it's all about. So at our level, the captain and I, right before you came on, we were talking about the budget, right? The budget is something we live in, right? And it's just not, our budget is, one guy can't do it or one gal can't do it. It's got to be a team. We have 3 people constantly looking at the budget any day of the week, because today things are so complex. They're fast-moving, they're fast-paced, and as you know, you need resources to solve problems. Time and money, right? Those are resources. Time is a resource. Money is a resource. Personnel, they're resources, right? So they all require an ability to manage, and to manage in depth, right? Not just for the moment, but you have to be able to sustain whatever operation that you're doing. That's why this is important. Of course, I was an operations officer, so I understand planning. I understand course of action analysis. I understand cost analysis. These are things that I think are going to become more and more important, especially in 21st century policing. The con, if you will, or the drawback to having a dual career, being in the Army Reserve and the National Guard and serving one's community, would be that obviously it pulls you away, right? It pulls you away from the job. And I was very fortunate that I had bosses that understood the need to be able to, right, it's an investment, we're getting a return on our investment, and whether it was a school, a foreign language school, or whether it was a management school or something else that I was going to, they knew that Wolfeboro would be seeing that return on their investment, and indeed it did happen. But that would be the drawback. But we need, I will tell you right now, we need these citizen soldiers in order to do what we're doing. The U.S. Army can't do it alone, and neither can the Air Force or the Navy or the Marine Corps. They need their citizen soldiers. And one of the things that I brought to the table in the big Army, when I was ordered to active duty, is a perspective of being a civilian and having those hard skills that they don't necessarily teach in the Army. So, for example, when I was in Iraq, we had to rebuild that infrastructure, right? We had to rebuild governance. And how do you do that? And it's easy in the Army, right, because you have a defined chain of command, but in civilian life, not so much, especially in a democracy. You don't govern a civilian population the same way you govern a military population, right? Exactly. So when they were making decisions about this and that, I was the guy in the back raising my hand and saying, hey, wait a minute, General, not so fast. All right, you can't police, for example, a civilian population the same way you police a military population. Oh, right, and especially when you're trying to establish a democracy, right? You can't suspend habeas corpus. In the military, we can suspend habeas corpus. You can't do that in a civilian population. You can't do that in a democracy. It's foreign, right? It's foreign. So these are the things, and they, oh yeah, you're right. That's a good point, Colonel. That's a good point. He said, hey, sir, that's why I'm here. I'm here for you, all right? So let's do this. So why don't we do this? Why don't we bring some civilian cops on and let them train the Iraqis and let them train the Afghanis, right, how to police a civilian population, because you're going to police a civilian population much differently than you're going to police a military population. The two are not the same. So little things like that.
Sounds like you're a real asset to the population of Wolfeboro, and I think they should welcome you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that very much. So I think I'm an asset too. And the funny thing is, the joke that you missed before we started this thing, and of course these guys roll their eyes when I say it. I say, you know what the best part about this TV show is? And they say, no, what, Chief? You're in it? Exactly, I'm in it.
PR. Very good PR.
Thank you very much, man, for being on this show. And enjoy Wolfeboro and enjoy your time leaf peeping up here. It's beautiful. Hi, I'm Chief Dean Rondeau with the Wolfeboro Police Department, and I'm back with your safety tip of the month. So we're getting into fall. So it's getting darker earlier, and there's going to be snow and wet leaves and ice on the roadways. We're starting to get into early winter, late fall, early winter. So you need to watch your speeds. You need to watch your traction control. Just a little tip. I know there's a common belief out there with 4x4 vehicles that you should only put it in a 4x4 if you really need to, if you're stuck. So let me just talk a little bit about that for one moment. That is indeed a myth. No, you shouldn't do that. Way back when 4x4s first came out, that indeed was the case. And I run into a lot of elderly drivers that believe that even though they have four-wheel drive, they're reluctant to use it because they're under this old perception that they should only do it when they're absolutely stuck. So what you have is people going up a hill and sliding everywhere because they're afraid to put it in four-wheel drive. Please don't do that. Put it in four-wheel drive, get better traction control because that's what it's for. And then when you're out of danger, you're not sliding anymore, then you can take it out of four-wheel drive and put it in all-wheel drive. Most vehicles now come with all-wheel drive. It's just a button that you push, or you can put it into two-wheel drive if you so desire. So don't be afraid to use that. And I know the younger generation is probably saying, "What are you talking about? We use it all the time." Right? I'm not talking to you folks. I'm talking to the older drivers, folks like myself, and perhaps a little bit older. When four-wheel drive came out, it was a relative novelty for most of the motoring public way back in the 60s and 70s, and this was indeed the case. You had to get out, you had to lock the hubs and so forth and so on. A lot of people are still in that perception. So no, don't do that. Go ahead and when you're in danger, when you think the road is a little slick, go ahead and put it in either all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Get yourself out of danger, and then you can switch it back. So again, this is Chief Dean Rondeau with your safety tip of the month. Thank you for tuning in, and please give Tim or Peter a call at Wolfeboro Community TV if you want to be on the show. Thank you for tuning in and watching Coffee and Connections with the Chief, and as always, coffee's on me. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.